life is the perfect dom. And by learning your kink and getting turned on by barely paying your bills, for example, in that way you've pleased that dom of life, the universe, or even God. And that way you can find joy. Welcome to Agelust, a podcast where we share uninhibited stories about aging, desire, and wisdom. We focus on quality of life issues like sex, hormones, and the messiness of getting older and anything and everything you might consider TMI. I'm your host, Jessica Podonsky, a double board certified family nurse practitioner and menopause provider. I'm passionate about creating a community where we talk about embracing our gray hair, or even waxing it off down there, and how you're never too old to get an STI. And if you do, write me and we'll talk about it. While I am a medical professional, I am not your medical professional. Always consult with your healthcare team before making any changes. This is a mini episode, and it's about the kinkiness of life, the twists and the turns. So I am recording this on July 21st. Yesterday, on July 20th, 2024, that was the date that starts the amazing book, The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, who is one of my all-time favorite authors. And I bring that book up because I think that it speaks to this kinkiness of life. So in The Parable of the Sower, and then there's The Parable of the Talents, it focuses on one character, it focuses on several characters, but specifically on a character, Lauren Olamina, who is 15 years old, living in absolute chaos. And if you've ever read any of Octavia Butler's books, you will know that they are science fiction, but you will find yourself living in her imagined future, which is the present now. Lauren creates a religion. I don't know if she creates it. I can't remember, but she ends up writing a text. And I could be fucking it up because I haven't read it in a long time. But what I do want to share with you is her prayer. And one of the prayers that she writes is, all that you touch, you change, capital C. All that you change, capital C, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. So when I say that life is very kinky and midlife and beyond just seems to get kinkier, I think that becomes evident and definitely in that prayer, especially when we know that, as I was just listening to in this podcast called Therapy in a Nutshell, the only certainty, if you are uncomfortable with uncertainty, is that things will be always changing and uncertain. So if you are like me and you're Gen X or even older than that, right? The generation right before, you probably grew up around self-help. And maybe you remember like Leo Buscaglia. Leo Buscaglia was this guy on PBS who was, I don't remember what he did, but it was like a lead with love thing. And he was really into hugging, and I am an excellent hugger. I don't know, maybe one day you'll have the opportunity to get one of my wonderful, firm, loving hugs. But from there, like there was remember The Road Less Traveled, and there was all of this searching. I guess maybe it came out of the 60s, and I know like there were other books, like earlier, Dale Carnegie, I don't even know the name of that guy, but, or How to Make Friends and Influence, whatever. There's always been this need and desire to improve ourselves, to get that thing, to get these things, to get certainty. And in midlife, I think we get to this, we call it a midlife crisis. That term was used twice this fucking week with me. Midlife crisis. But we know for certain, I think at a certain point in our lives, that our lives are not forever, that we are finite, but the possibilities of what we do with this finite time are infinite. And there is uncertainty. as you know, I'm a family nurse practitioner and I'm also a menopause provider. And sometimes there's this whole concept that if you start hormones, like everything, it'll be certain that you will feel great. And it doesn't even work like that. Sometimes you feel great and sometimes you do not feel great. And sometimes you need to tweak and you have to, and it's not even the hormones at all. It's the iron or it's the thyroid or, which is hormonal adjacent. But the point is that I was thinking, well, what if we look at life in a different way, right? It's not this love and light. It's not this make everything okay and make everything better. So I picked up this book called Existential Kink, Unmask Your Shadow and Embrace Your Power, a method of getting what you want by getting off on what you don't. I was like, okay, I kind of like that existential kink and looking at what is the taboo. And in this book, one of the amazing things that she says, because if I tell you that this is about the kink of understanding yourself and like finding out what your kink is on, or that shadow side, you might be like, I am not into that at all, or you are really into it. But she says specifically, your unwillingness to let yourself have big, fat, happy pleasure until you get the quote, the good thing, unquote, is the very essence of sadomasochistic self-denial. Before that, she says, after all, highly imperfect and fucked up is the signature of duality. And it's exactly what you came to this realm in order to experience. Otherwise, you just have stayed swimming in the cosmic soup and would have never bothered to come down into defined material form at all. And I thought, I know that's right, because it is kind of sadomasochistic to not give ourselves a sense of pleasure. Think about like food, like, oh, I'll reward myself with food, or if I punish myself at the gym, then I can get this other thing. If I sleep when I'm dead, you know, all of these things that are the pleasure of working hard, you know, not working hard, not the pleasure, but like the reward of being exhausted. Like I am one of those people who will tell you all the time, to the point that it's boring, that I'm tired. So bitch, take a nap. Anyway, I just think it's, I just want to define a little bit more about this kink thing. So let's talk a little bit more about kink. Kink in the broad sense refers to unconventional sexual practices, but it also can be the unconventional ways that we navigate life. And I think that as a provider, I might be a little unconventional in certain ways. And this idea of shadow and darkness came from Carl Jung, who was a Swiss psychiatrist. And he spoke about the shadow. He was also into Kundalini. And he said something like, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness visible. And that concept of shadow work is important when we start to think about kink, both sexually and otherwise. Because the shadow is the part that we repress or deny. And it often doesn't fit into our self-image. And this is what Dr. Carolyn Elliott / Lovewell says. It doesn't fit into our self-image or our societal expectations. But if we start to acknowledge those and get comfortable with the uncertainty in certain cases, or look at the shadow of what we're striving for, then we become more whole. We become more authentic. Now, don't at me about Carl Jung being complicated, because I'm sure that he was, and I even Googled, was Carl Jung a racist? You can imagine what I saw. But I'm not a Jung scholar. If you are, bless your heart, good for you. It's great. But I'm not going to be. This is just something that I'm kind of looking into. So in this book, the idea here is that there are actual exercises that help you to understand where your kink lies. So in this book about existential kink, The idea is that when you look at those yucky parts, like, for example, under-earning, picking losers, thinking that life would be great if, fill in the blank, there's that kinky shadow behind. She also does not believe in this book that you are the manifestation of your thoughts. Like, if you only thought in love and light, then basically saying it's all your fucking fault. She doesn't do that at all. In fact, she speaks very clearly about systemic issues, generational issues, and that it's kind of this accumulation, and it's the circumstances that we are born into or placed into. But there are also times that we can take some action and examine some of the systemic or generational beliefs that we play out. And that if you play with them a little bit and think about them, you may actually physically feel something in the body, like feel this jolt of electricity. So let's just talk about like old kind of new age self-help, right? Manifesting, for example. And you were to write like, my partner is strong and capable and kind and also brings me flowers every day, makes me coffee, da 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 da, la 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 la, 6 foot, blah blah, like all of this list, right? When in actuality, it's that, the more that you play with it and you're like, I kind of like a person who's narcissistic adjacent, that is kind of mean, that is very much reminding me of so-and-so. Perhaps you get turned on by that and it sparks something. If it's that you learn that there's something exciting about being on the verge of being broke every month. And you're saying you want to make X amount of money. You want this, you want to have abundance, you want blah, 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 blah. But in actuality, when you really twist those words around and paint the picture in a different way, you figure out, I actually like living on the edge where I have no money and then I get a check and I play with that. Because the premise of the book is that life is the perfect dom. And by learning your kink and getting turned on by barely paying your bills, for example, in that way you've pleased that dom of life, the universe, or even God. And that way you can find joy. She likes to ask people to get in touch with what they don't like. In the book, she also reviews working with guilt, feeling powerful, magic, family healing. I'm going to read to you what the exercises are. So, how to get your shit together, deepest fear inventory, how to beat yourself up in a fun way, how to dwell in the luminous dark, how to stop being broke. Ooh, I need that one. How to feel blissfully happy, how to feel your real feelings, not the fake ones, how to not take yourself so seriously, how to feel good in your body, how not to suck at love, how to stop pretending you're enlightened already, how to stop torturing others by truly appreciating the art of torture, how to dread the wonderful for fun and profit. So these are the exercises that she has. I just wanted to bring that up. I just wanted to talk about this book a little bit because I think in these strange and unsure times, it's just, there are lots of us who are looking for answers and looking for the thing that's going to fix it all and give us certainty. And possibly by starting with the premise that shit is fucked up, or that the universe is your dom, it takes some of the pressure off. Anyway, I just wanted to share this book with you, Existential Kink. If you're looking for something that is self-help, but in a different way, in a kinky way, it may be right up your alley. If you're looking for something to just read and take another perspective because you've done all the other programs, done all the other things, this might be fun. to look at. So existential kink, because everyone is a little bit kinky, honestly. I definitely say give this book a try. And remember, if you're going to delve into the dark side, the shadow side, one of the things that she makes very clear, this work is not appropriate for people who are struggling with depression or deep grief. The mood should be high when you're looking at it, at your dark shadow side, and at very least, there should be an ember of joy, she says, because the universe has no safe words. So for those of us in midlife and beyond who want to explore the kinkiness of our shadow desires, this may be a really fun tool because everyone is a little bit kinky. So again, this book is called Existential Kink. Check it out. I also need to make it really clear, I am not a member of the kink community. I am very enamored of them. I hold them in high regard because of all of the awesome rules that are set and the communication. I just think it's just so important and we can all learn something from that. If you are interested in the kinkier sides of your health and getting support, I'm going to suggest that you check out some of my work. I run the Meno Circle, which I'm thinking about changing to like Meno Meta Circle, because it's not really just about menopause. It's really for anybody, any woman that is looking to understand her body, understand rest, and understand relationships in a deeper way. We start in August and it's 4 months, and we do a deep dive using guiding texts to understand ourselves a little bit better, set goals, and work in community. There is a mini episode about it on YouTube. Check it out if you're looking for communal self-care. We'll spend 4 months together, and there's also open office hours where you can ask the expert, which is c'est moi. And I am a nurse practitioner and menopause provider. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes because I will have somebody who's very important in the kink community, Masha. She is a Shibari facilitator. She is a Shibari teacher. She's also a midwife. And we are going to talk about the fascinating interplay between rope work and menopause. Until then, stay tuned. Let me know what you want to talk about. Let me know what you're interested in. Always, always, always like, subscribe, all those things. Read Parable of the Sower. Read Existential Kink. Let me know what you think. Hang in there. It's all going to work out. It's all about change. If this podcast is helping you, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. You can write in with questions at hello@ageless.co, and I'll answer them on the podcast. If you want clarity on your aging journey, you can book a private session with me on my website, ageless.co. That's AGELUST.co. We're on all the podcast platforms as well as YouTube and Instagram. Links are in the show notes.